hopefully our people hear out and stories.
Some people are doing that, absolutely. So some people have their private keys. They've got a lot. I know a guy who's $25 to $50 million of Bitcoin, and he's got his private key saved in a number of different safes with physically a piece of paper printed out in different safes, like something like a Hollywood film. But he genuinely has a number of safes in different countries with his private key.
Yeah, so I was wondering, so obviously that's like for you as an individual, and in that case, I said as the medical thing, but if you're companies who are sharing data to do with the transaction, then how would that work? So that, like say there was, I don't know, 2 or 3 companies that are involved in a transaction and you all want to be able to view that transaction.
Yeah.
How does that work then in terms of,
so
is it that everyone has to see it? Or how?
Yeah, so it can be either way. So if you're looking at what are called ERC20 coins, they have a very standard interface, and everything that is involved with that is basically the public ledger. So most of the time, everything that's on the Ethereum network is publicly visible and visible to all. There are sort of exceptional cases where you can lock it up, and what you're storing on the network is encrypted data that's essentially meaningless to everyone without a key. But transfers and voting things and stuff like that are probably better public, and the majority of stuff is public. Yeah. And it's funny as well if you get into sort of the history of Bitcoin as well. So like in the very early versions of Bitcoin and at the very start of the chain, although Bitcoin wasn't designed to store anything other than the ledger, some people have been essentially manipulating some of the transaction addresses to basically represent storage of information. And you can actually see people have been storing poetry, images, articles, messages, and things like that on the blockchain as well. That's publicly visible, so it's kind of cool. I think in the Genesis block we mentioned there is a 1,000 Bitcoin to anybody who can hack it. But the creator of the Genesis block also put in a link to an article of the death of banks. So it was pretty funny as well. Any other questions?
You say that you have to keep the privacy safe. You use that, you use a wallet, and you use a Bitcoin or whichever coin it is.
Yeah.
How can someone steal my coins based on if he sees or they have my private key?
Yeah.
And they take my stuff out of my wallet?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So if they've got your private key, they can essentially impersonate you. So on the network, when you send a coin from your wallet to someone else, you basically send a command to the network that says, I'm Elaine, and I want to send this coin, and my proof of Elaine is this, and it's generated with your private key. If someone else has your private key, they can send that same message. They can essentially impersonate you, and that goes on to like, how do you physically secure your private key? So some people have hardware wallets. You can buy these little USB sticks that plug in. They hold your hardware key. Another source of some of the hacks have been things like these exchanges that we mentioned before, like My Ether Wallet or Coinbase. These ones are legitimate and haven't been hacked, but some of the other less legitimate ones have. And they're hacked because they're storing your private key on their server. So if you've got any serious quantity of money, as I mentioned before, don't keep it on the exchange. Trade at the exchange and then move it to your own private key.
We'll probably next meetup, what we'll probably do is we'll sort out the AD issues, and we'll do a live transaction. So we'll do a movement of Bitcoin from one wallet to another. We'll also try and bring one of these hardware wallets that Elaine talked about as well. And we'll talk a little bit more about security issues as well, and get people involved. Hopefully we'll give people a few ideas for content for next time. Cool. So, yeah. So it's a good question. So Bitcoin trades on a number of different exchanges. So what's strange about Bitcoin? So Bitcoin is a traded commodity like anything else. So if you go on Google, you can type Tesco shares, and the share price will come up. And it's quite easy to find out what price of Tesco shares are, because they only trade in one place. They trade on the London Stock Exchange, and then they sort of see 100, and you can tell what price is now. Bitcoin, like any market, it's just supply and demand. We'll decide, okay, if there's a negative news story about Bitcoin, the price will go down. If people are thinking be interested in going on the price will go up. So no different from any other market. It's a bit more complex because Bitcoin trades on multiple exchanges. Now, in theory, in economic theory, the price should be the same on every single exchange at the same time. In practice, there's slight differences. It's not massively out. You're not going to find a 10% difference between the price, but any of the big exchanges will have the price of Bitcoin listed. So I used the example earlier of Coinbase being the biggest exchange. So Coinbase on their front screen, on their dashboard, they've got the price of Bitcoin. I haven't checked today, but it was over $5,000 last time I checked. But it's very volatile. So whereas a share in Tesco's or Vodafone, if it went down 3% in a day, you would go, wow, what the hell's happened here? That's a huge move. Bitcoin went down 30% in a week, you'd be like, yeah. And that's Bitcoin, that's the stable. It's funny because you get caught in this bubble sometimes because we're involved in the space. Someone asked me the other day, and they said, what would you invest in? I said, oh yeah, you've got to invest in something really secure and low risk like Bitcoin. Bitcoin is in the normal world, Bitcoin is volatile. In the crypto world, Bitcoin is actually quite stable. But some of these all the other coins that are not Bitcoin, one of the major coins are generally referred to as altcoins, alternative coins, and they're really volatile. They're plus or minus 10%, 50% in a day. So very easy to lose money. I know people focus on easy to make money, but it's easy to lose money as well. So again, someone asked me earlier on, what would I invest in? So generally across the board, as an investment strategy, I wouldn't put all my money in crypto. I'd have traditional investments. Many of you will have property or shares or whatever you invest in, and put some in crypto. So that's the first thing, have a diversified portfolio. And within crypto, what would I invest in? Bitcoin and Ethereum would make up the majority of my investments. They do within crypto, and then I would have a smaller portion in these altcoins. The one overriding rule I always say is, I can't emphasize this enough, don't invest in crypto with money that you can't afford to lose. If your life is going to change by you losing that money, whether it's £100, £1,000, or £10,000, if you lost every single pound, and that would really mess your life up, don't put it in. Put less in until it becomes tolerable. Because number one, we'll cover over the next few weeks and months in terms of security, how to make sure that it's safe as possible. But you can take all the precautions possible, keep your private key safe, and you never get hacked. But the value of the coin could just go in half. And I hear some crazy stories about people borrowing money on credit cards for crypto, and they said, I'm going to let it go up twice and then put money back on the credit card. Not good. So, and no amount is too small. This is the amazing thing about it. It's designed for people. The people it's designed. It's democratized. It doesn't matter if you invest $5 in. But I would encourage you all certainly to open an account, trade, put $5 in, £5 in, £10 in, and see what happens. You'll get used to watching the price. You'll see the patterns in the price movements. There's loads of crypto websites on. I don't know if we should maybe create like a mailing group or something if we haven't got one already, Tony. We can send some links in to the biggest crypto exchanges and the crypto news sites to keep an eye. I will warn you, if you start delving into the space, you'll never get into it. It's like a bottomless pit. Once you start researching, it's just like forget sleep. Yeah, sure.
I just wanted to ask, because you're talking about the democratization of finance.
Yes.
But with the ICO, there's completely the opposite.
Okay.
Because we are having people getting money from people, and we're not owning anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as a result, we're just creating some new wealth owners.
I see your point. When you're buying a token, you're not getting anything, but you are getting the token. So as a token buyer, when I invest in ICOs, I'm buying the token. I go into it, and this is why we're so clear with you, that make sure you understand that you're not getting anything apart from the token. But I'm still buying the token, and I'm buying the token because, yes, a development team is raising $10 million in an ICO, let's say, for example. So they've got £10 million. So let's say all the people in this room invested in an ICO, we all invested together, we all put £100 in or whatever. So now a development company here, the entrepreneur has now got $10 million effectively of our money. So for them, they then have to build tech. They have to build what they said they're going to build. And we want them to succeed because we want the tokens to go up. So what's in it for them is they've had a really cool way of financing their business. What's in it for us as token buyers is we want the value of the token to go up. So I invested £100. I want to make sure that £100 is maybe 150 or £200 by this time next year.
Why is the value of that token rising?
If the usage is rising, if the project is deemed to be good, a successful project, likely to succeed, and like any other market, the more people get involved, the more people buying, the higher the price is going to go. So people are buying to speculate on the price. So what you'll often see, and when you research the sector, you'll get to know more and more. Generally, if you go on Twitter, so a lot of crypto traders are on Twitter, and generally they're talking about books, you need to sort of take everything with a pinch of salt. I don't have any of you heard of a coin called Ripple? Okay, one of the biggest. So what you'll find is, for example, someone on Twitter will say, "Oh yeah, Ripple's about to explode," and they're saying that because they own Ripple and they want everyone else to buy Ripple, so the price of Ripple goes higher, so they get richer.
Which is nothing to do with the actual business.
Which is absolutely
Completely.
no, exactly. So there may be no underlying reason, which is why we always say do your research. So if someone says Ripple's going to go really high, why? Ask them why. On what basis? Most of the time, people won't be able to answer that question. They'll say, "Oh, I heard someone say it."
But from also there's apart from the speculation, there's also the underlying technology or the business that's getting developed. So an example is one example is Filecoin. So Filecoin is kind of like Dropbox but decentralized, and they raised I think 150 million or it was quite a bit. But the idea is that instead of paying Dropbox and their centralized servers, where you put them up or whatever, you can store data on their systems which is distributed and global and pay for that in coins. So
In which coin?
in their coin.
In their own coin.
Yeah. So you're paying for storage and that's and each of the businesses have the underlying technology that the coin has value for. So like we just talked a lot about speculation, but there is often and you should research that, the underlying business and whether that's viable and otherwise it's just speculation.
Yeah.
Okay, let's say you were an ICO, some technology, we invested in your, well, we don't invest, but we bought a coin.
Yes.
This is really being to generate your money.
Yes.
And your business takes off and your business is fantastic. That doesn't necessarily mean that the value of my coin will increase.
No, well you have to watch to make sure that the coin does have value in that business and it's going to be part of it. But you're right.
There's some intrinsic link between the coin and the business.
And that's the primary reason why you should not invest in a bad one.
Yeah.
If you can't see that link.
You're absolutely right. So to take that, it's a really important point. To take this example, if we've got a limited supply of tokens and we issue the tokens, and all the tokens are allocated now, our business relies on people using those tokens. So the business really takes off because once everyone's buying those tokens. But there's a limited supply of those tokens now. So everyone wants them, so the price is going to go higher and higher. So as an early token buyer, you're rewarded by the increase in that price, not because of pure speculation, but because people are actually using the tokens. So you'll hear this term a lot, utility. The token has to have a utility for it to be sustainable. You can make money, but you can lose money by just speculating. If everyone in this room suddenly discovered a new coin, if I came in this room and said to you, this new coin is called X, and it's amazing, it's going to go up. If all of you went out and bought it, the price would go up. Of course, but sustained in the long term, they wouldn't do that. So the coin has to have a utility because the more people using the coin, in our case, I can talk about people using the coin to charge their energy, electric vehicles, and so on and so forth. The more partners we bring on, the more demand there is for the coin, but there's a limited supply of the coin, so the price of that coin is going to get higher and higher. So in our case, to give you a practical example, if we do a deal with Samsung buy a load of tokens from us to give away with their Eco Pro washing machines. At the start, they may give away 500 energy tokens with it. But then, because it's becoming so widespread, energy tokens all over the world, 500 tokens, that's 500 quid, it's ridiculous. So they need to, rather than give 500 tokens away, they start to give 5 tokens away. So the price of your token, as token buyers, we are rewarded by the success of the project. Another really cool part is that
talking from the business side again, is that the distributed ledger and the distributed coins opens up technologies that might not have been easily done before. So if we use the Filecoin one, for example, so right now they're essentially monetizing storage. Right now, if I go out and buy a spare hard drive and bring it home, and I haven't got any data to put on it yet, or don't need to use it for a month, I can plug it into my computer, Filecoin would start syncing and using that space, and I'm earning money, and I don't even have to do anything, like it's automated. So, but if you were to do that with I don't know if they've launched, but that's the technology that they're going to.
Yeah, it's a company called Filecoin. It's one of the biggest ICOs that's happened this year. They got something like 50. It was a bit of a weird one because they raised actually about $50 million from traditional venture capitalists first, which upset a lot of people. I think they raised maybe even 200 million plus.
Yeah.
So they took $50 million of traditional Silicon Valley money first before they went to a public sale, which upset a lot of people because they wanted in that spirit of.
I think there was a question.
Oh, sorry, yeah.
Yeah, and the around the project, will it be built on top of the Ethereum platform? And also, I suppose the second question is, do you see any potential competitors at the moment?
Yeah, so there's about, we track the energy projects globally in this space really closely. So generally, energy companies are focused, blockchain energy companies are really focused on two things: optimizing the grid, so balancing the national grid, or incentivizing renewable energy projects of getting people to build solar and so on and so forth. Both of those things are fantastic. They complement our product. Our product is more a reward token that incentivizes reducing energy rather than producing green energy. There's about 5 or 6, I can talk to you about them in detail if you'd like, the ones that incentivize green energy. And they're great. You know, some of them I actually think are terrible. Some of them I think are just there to raise the money and they've got no underlying understanding of the energy markets and how they work. But some of them are really cool projects. But they're complementary to ours. And the energy market is a $2 trillion market. So for us to expect ourselves to be the only people in the space is ludicrous. So there's some really good projects out there. I hope our sort of USP is that we're incentivizing the reduction in energy and rewarding that. And again, if you read the white paper, hopefully some of the advisors in the space that we've got will give you some idea of the quality of the projects, as well as really interesting actually. On Friday we signed up a member of the House of Lords as an advisor. He's an ex-energy spokesman as well. And the reason why I'm laughing is that he had this idea of a member of the House of Lords pretty much all the time. But interestingly, he took all his remuneration, we're paying him completely in our tokens. So if our project fails, he doesn't get anything. And if you know these sorts of characters, they don't really like to do anything. So generally, it's nice for us that he believes in the project. But all the information is right there. Again, happy to. If you've got Telegram, join our Telegram group. And, you can't constantly get a bit of dialogue. Yeah, really good question. So all of those things. So hype is often seen as a bad thing. So there's a lot of hype around the project. Hype is okay if there's something to hype over. You know, sometimes hype alone, if something's just got hype alone, I think it's marketing people behind something. I'll run a mile. You know, I wouldn't invest a pound in that kind of a business. If someone's just got banner adverts everywhere and there's no, I know plenty of projects like that. So when I'm looking at an ICO, number one, I personally, I'm in a fortunate position that I can meet these people face to face. So me personally, I like to meet the entrepreneur, meet part of the team myself before I invest. If I can't do that, the things that I'm looking at in terms of my analysis from afar, number one, on the quality of the team. Do the people have a reputation in the space that they're in? So in the medical products, I'll tell you about. You know, are they? You know, how long have they been doctors? How long have they been involved in the medical profession? Do they have a tech background? The second thing I look at after industry expertise is, has the team executed before? It doesn't mean I won't invest in someone if they're doing it their first business, but it means that it will affect my analysis of that project. If I see someone who's run businesses before, has successfully sold businesses, that instills a bit of confidence for me. Another point is I look at the utility of the token, to your point earlier on. Do they need a token? Are they doing this just to raise money because it's a cool way of raising money? Or is there actually a need for this token? If you took the token out of their business model, would their business model still work? Generally, if the answer is yes, it will still work, then that tells you a lot about the project. Whereas if you say, take the token out and say, well, you've got no business now, it's normally a pretty good sign because it means they need the token, therefore the token's going to be used, therefore I would invest in that project. So those are the three main things: team, industry experience, execution, and utility of the token.
And they manipulate the amount of token or the amount.
Yeah. So all again in the white paper, most people will outline what they propose using the funds for. So the majority, in my opinion, I mean, some models are a little bit weird, so they're a bit different. But generally, the majority of the funds should be using the product. Yeah, people will declare that. Just bear in mind as well is that just because someone says something in a white paper, it's not a legally binding document. You know, someone could say, I'm going to invest 75% in development, and then they get it and they use it to buy Ferrari. That's as the token buyers, that's the risk. That's the risk that we.
Can they flood the market with tokens or reduce the number of tokens in the market?
Yeah, so look in the white paper, look under something called token supply. There'll be a section called token supply, which will go through their token economics. How many tokens are in the market? They're only releasing a few tokens into the market and keeping loads back. What are they keeping it back for? Sorry, there's you have a question?
Yeah, when you mind what actually are you mining? Are you mining Bitcoin? Are you mining Ethereum? Coinex or something? And you said the number is maximum value of crypto value is 21 million.
The number of bitcoins that were created is 21
Is
million.
that just for Bitcoin or for any crypto?
Just for Bitcoin. So Bitcoin was really unusual in that the creator of Bitcoin only created 21 million Bitcoin, and that's it. This is why, apart from it being the first real cryptocurrency, this is why it's gained so much traction, because people like the idea that it's finite. There's only ever going to be 21 million Bitcoin, and I don't know how many millionaires there are in the world, but definitely more than 21 million.
What's the maximum value of euro?
In terms of the token supply,
Yeah.
so we're going to issue 2 billion tokens, 2 billion tokens at 1 cent each. So we're raising $20 million.
In the future, you represent there's going to be various different currencies going on. Firstly, they just be able to be exchanged with each other. And then what's going to happen to fiat currency?
It's a really, really good question. So you meet some people that are really hardcore Bitcoin people, and they want the eradication of the whole financial system. They want to get rid of dollars, get rid of pounds, euros, and you understand the reason why. We're more pragmatic. My personal view is that you will move to a cashless society, probably quicker than most people think. So in effect, you will have digital currencies, but you'll have state currency. You'll have the digital sterling, digital dollars, and so on and so forth. So national governments won't miss. They're not going to let us run amok and let technologists take over money supply. They will have digital currencies, and you're already starting to see the first state digital currencies in Dubai and the Emirates and Estonia.
Bank of England was one of the economic
Yeah. Yeah, all the big central banks are working on this, and you see a really good example of to demonstrate the sort of logic behind your question in Venezuela at the moment. So people in Venezuela, you've got sort of a horrendous economic situation there, and people are turning to things like Bitcoin because a policeman or someone in the army can't go and steal a load of cash from you. You've got hyperinflation. You've got that sort of privacy of Bitcoin. People are turning to Bitcoin. So organically, people are adopting these digital currencies. So it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. I wouldn't like to predict when, well, it's definitely happening.
That's a good question. When it reaches 21 million?
Yeah.
Good question. It's not for a while yet because what happens is the supply halves in fixed periods of time. So soon, I think the reward for Bitcoin just halved not long ago. So it becomes exponentially more difficult. But what will probably happen is that as the value changes in time, that'll just move naturally, and the amount will change, based on demand and supply. But yeah, if Bitcoin is a very long-term thing, like I think it will run out in about 120 years, I think around that time. But by that time, it'll probably be just everywhere and nobody will be mining anymore and it'll just be exchanged all the time. Yeah. Yeah.
Last question.
What would be the effects of quantum computing on the economy?
Good question. Well, the question is whether a quantum computer can break the encryption algorithm. If it can, and it looks like it might be able to, we've got a serious problem because whoever's got a quantum computer can get it your funds. But in saying that, although joke about it, but in the seriousness, there is the algorithms that are just being rolled into Ethereum now are quantum resilient, and if all we have to do is change the algorithm to something that's difficult for the quantum computer, someone will come up with a new algorithm and it'll be fixed. But that comes on. Yeah, if quantum computers can break public key cryptography, then we'll need to shift quickly. Yeah.
Cool. All right, guys. Well, thank you very much. We're probably about to get kicked out of here. So, final thing from us. Thank you so much for coming. And do we have like a mailing list or anything?
You know, at the moment, but if you need to just join our.
Yeah, so we'll put it on the Meetup. I guess most of you find us through the Meetup app. So we'll put on the next details there. And I know you've travelled from all over, so thank you so much. And we'll try and get the next one a bit more central. In the meantime, just contact us.